And tonight on Joy News Prime, minority in parliament petitions U.S. ambassador to Ghana demanding formal investigations by the U.S. government into the PDS saga.
Array of sanctions that can apply, from a freezing of accounts to visa restrictions to all kinds of blockades that can happen within diplomatic circles.
We'll hear government's response to the minorities' action. Volta region community sends messages of worry to President Akufo-Addo as they drink dirty water laced with leeches and algae, citing a government promise to ensure no community has a water problem within the first 2 years of the MPP administration.
Can give this water to even their dogs to drink because of the nature of the water. If they come, we feed them water, they don't drink it. They tell us it's okay.
More on this coming up in our new citizen-based series dubbed Dear Nanado. Also, President Akufo-Addo condemns smuggling of fertilizers meant for distribution to farmers under the Planting for Food and Jobs policy and calls for vigilance.
A handful of greedy criminals, and they will use our money to smuggle our goods to the. And all of us should band together to stop the smuggling of our fertilizers to the.
And also, are they dams or dugouts? Paramount Chief of Navrongo demands clarity from the president. In business,
coming up in business, government declares tax holidays for car assembling plants and imposes 35% of import duty on some categories of vehicle as automobile bill is launched.
Exemption of import duties on the plant, machinery, equipment that you bring in to establish your assembly plant.
Details of that coming up. I'm Arba Kumsin, and Joy News Prime comes to you live from the Joy News studio at Kokomemle here in Accra with digital address 38099-2539. Stay tuned. Thanks for staying with us. Now, the minority in Parliament has petitioned the United States ambassador to Ghana, Stephanie Sullivan, demanding formal investigations by the U.S. government into the PDS saga. The minority says the move has been prompted by their belief that the Akufo-Addo government cannot be trusted to conduct thorough and independent investigations into what they describe as a scandal of monumental proportions. By the move, the NDC MP say they are seeking to trigger investigations under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act of the United States of America. The petition was signed by Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu and delivered at the U.S. Embassy in Accra by the ranking member on Parliament's Committee on Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. He's been providing more details on the petition.
Of sanctions that can apply, from a freezing of accounts to visa restrictions to all kinds of blockades that can happen within diplomatic circles. There can also be a push for prosecution. You see, it's important to make all of these, corrupt practices, corrupt conduct, a high-risk activity. And people must know that all avenues will be triggered when they engage in such acts. We are talking about 51% of a strategic national interest, valued at about 22 billion cedis. That was given to people, talk to all the experts in the sector, people who have no track record, who have no financial capacity, no technical competence. I mean, they had absolutely no business coming near this transaction, which is made up of government appointees, let us down. There was no due diligence. This was clearly a sweetheart arrangement, calling cronies around the table and raping the country. Wow. And we are not going to sit idle. We don't want posterity to say that the minority sat silent and we were complicit in this deal. We raised this money.
But Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah has dismissed the minority's action, saying it is undiplomatic. He insists the government will conduct a thorough investigation into the matter and ensure transparency throughout the process. Watch.
No country will take it kindly if you have senior politicians of their own stock, literally calling on the international community and saying that we don't trust our government, come and investigate. When candidate Trump at the time called on Russia to come and investigate Hillary Clinton's emails, you saw the kind of disappointment the world over. These things are not even done in diplomatic circles. But it's not surprising. This is the same minority that says that they were going to have the American Securities and Exchange Commission investigate the finance minister. I think at a point they said there was a female investigator who had been appointed and who was coming to Ghana to investigate. Some of these things they do for the political drama that is associated with it. The important thing here is that the government of Ghana, at nobody's prompting, commenced this due diligence exercise on the 28th of February and proceeded to identify that which it describes as suspected fundamental breaches, did not keep quiet about it, suspended the concession, is having a full-scale inquiry, and engagement in that inquiry include engagements with the Millennium Challenge Corporation of the United States of America, as well as all other interested parties. This administration can be trusted to get to the bottom of this matter, and in the spirit of transparency, as we have mentioned, will update the nation and all stakeholders on what we find. This new drama that they're asking the Americans to come and investigate, as though the same people who found the initial fundamental breaches and are going ahead with the inquiry are incapable of doing it, I think it's one of their many antics, and we can put it on the shelf of antics that they usually come up with.
Away from PDS, Busa South Member of Parliament, Dr. Clement Park, is calling for the removal of the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources following revelations in an investigative report that MPP members are being given permits to export rosewood despite a ban. He's also demanding the removal of the head of the Forestry Commission, Kwejo Owuse Friye, popularly known as Sir John. Dr. Park Wednesday petitioned the Office of the Special Prosecutor demanding the prosecution of MPP members and Forestry Commission officials cited in the investigative report by the EIA. He told a media briefing in Parliament House the only way to end the illegal trade is for the special prosecutor to set an example of those captured in the report.
This is obviously criminal and flies in the face of the rule of law. Why should a political party that claims to have this country at heart be doing this to the good people of Ghana? The investigators also report that Mr. Nana Kofi Edu Nsia, Executive Director of the Wildlife Division for the Forestry Commission, even receives a percentage of the value of the rosewood exported illegally. He was being bribed to sign export permits illegally. The investigators also report that he has been signing permits to allow for the export of rosewood to China as recently as the 15th of May, 2019, and even more recently on the 18th of June, 2019, months after the ban had come into force. There has been high levels of corruption, collusion, institutionalized trafficking, and the lack of enforcement at the heart of this illegal rosewood trade. And let me make it known to all of you that I have petitioned the Office of the Special Prosecutor to investigate the allegations of bribery that has allowed the illegal rosewood business to thrive and to prosecute those involved. I submitted the petition to the Office of the Special Prosecutor today. In the petition, I provided him with details in this report by the EIA, and I have also given him a copy of the Joy News documentary on same. I am in contact with the Environmental Investigative Agency in the US, and they have indicated their readiness to provide the Office of the Special Prosecutor with more details on this, so that he can investigate and prosecute anyone, including party and government officials, behind this illegal trade.
Well, Dr. Park says government officials have been misleading Ghanaians on claims there is a ban, but the felling is still happening.
How sad. Clearly, rule of law has been thrown to the dogs in this country. the lives of the good people of Ghana are being undermined and the environment is being desecrated just because a political party needs to help its members make money. This is the highest form of injustice to the people of Ghana. That is obviously not what they voted President Nana Akufo-Addo and the MPP into power to come and do. This is not how J.B. Dankwa and the founders of MPP envisioned the party that they founded would become someday when in power. An organization that puts money making above human lives. And do you know something? They are doing all this because they are aggressively looking for money to monetize our democracy and to steal the mandate of the people in the coming election.
As you know, the Forestry Commission has begun a probe into the matter. Now, President Akufo-Addo has condemned the smuggling of fertilizer meant for distribution to farmers under the Planting for Food and Jobs program. Addressing the chiefs and people of Navrongo on day 2 of his tour of the Upper East region, the president said the few greedy people should not be allowed to shortchange the gains government is making with the policy. On Monday, the police, together with Border Patrol officers of the Ghana Immigration Service, impounded 2 trucks loaded with bags of smuggled fertilizer meant for farmers in the Upper West region. Here is correspondent Albert Soros' report read to you.
According to the police, a total of 1,950 bags were retrieved from the trucks which were being smuggled to neighboring Burkina Faso through the Fielmo unapproved route in the Sisala West district. Addressing a deba in his honor at Navrongo, President Akufo-Addo called for vigilance to arrest persons bent on destroying the program.
I think we should all understand one thing. It is not possible for all of us to use our country's money, our taxpayers' money, yours and mine, and the money that our nation is able to develop, we use it to buy fertilizer and subsidize it by 50% in order to improve the productivity of our farmers. Our farmers have embraced the program of Planting for Food and Jobs. It began with 200,000 farmers. Today it's almost 1 million in 2.5 years, to show the enthusiasm of our farmers for this program. And it's all of us, our money which is inside the program. It's not just the farmers. People sitting in the offices in Accra are contributing. Those sitting in the offices in Navrongo are contributing. It's not just the farmers. And then we have a handful of greedy people, a handful of greedy criminals. And they will use our money to smuggle our things to the I am appealing to all of you, the traditional rulers and the population. I've seen the ones that have been seized by this very active woman at the residency. I've seen the lorries that are there. I've seen them in the police station here in Nigeria. It is not right. And all of us should band together to stop the smuggling of our fertilizers to Burkina Faso. And then taxpayers' money to subsidize criminal activity, which is going to the benefit of a handful of people in their pockets. We can't continue down that road. And I'm appealing to you to give the security agencies here your maximum support to bring this activity into. And if there are even members of the security agencies who are complicit in this matter, expose them. Let us know who they are, and they will be dealt with. I promise you that.
The paramount chief of the Navrongo traditional area, Dennis Balinia Ada, appealed to the president to address the controversy surrounding the nature of dams under the One Village, One Dam initiative.
There are some issues in respect of the true scope of these projects. We are not so sure in the public, especially news, as to what is the actual nature of some of the projects, particularly the dams. We would like the authorities or the stakeholders involved to clarify, particularly the volume of the dams, the lack of outlets, what are their sizes, and what have you. If there's clarification on these aspects of the projects, Mr. President, it will do us a lot of good in order to legitimize the expectations of the people.
Well, the Minister for Special Initiatives, Howard Kumsin, has a response.
We are currently constructing 560 dams across the 5 northern regions. And this region will have access to 150 dams. That is the Upper East region. The dams being constructed are small earth dams, which sits on about 2 to 3 hectares of land. It has an embankment wall, which ranges between 250 to 350 meters long, with a depth of about 5 meters. Each dam is estimated to contain about 30,000 cubic meters of water when full. And this is enough to survive during the dry season.
You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Araba Kumsi. We're taking a short breather, but stay with us because when we return, dear Nanado
can give this water to even their dogs to drink because of the nature of the water. If they come, we feed them water, they don't drink it. They tell us it's okay.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, it's a community in the Central Tongue constituency of the Volta region which is dealing with a worrying reality. Their only source of water, it's a dirty pool, and it's laced with algae and leeches. The story of Mafetove Gwepo was the highlight of the first episode in the Joy News series dubbed Dear Nanado, which tracks government's promises and the situation on the ground. The people say the Kufuor government promised to ensure safe water in every community within its first 2 years in office, but their situation is yet to change. Jojo Kobina was there and now reports.
In the first 2 years of an MPP administration, under this Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication program, where every constituency will get $1 million every for rural and deprived communities. Under this program, there should be no village or community in Ghana after the first 2 years that would have a water problem or a toilet problem. There should be no village or community. Once we implement this, the first 2 years, we will make sure you will not have a water problem or a toilet problem.
A promise from Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia when the New Patriotic Party launched this manifesto in 2016 at the La Trade Fair Center in Accra. It has been over 2 years since this assuring statement was made, and it still rings in the minds of the people.
Times are wasting and record. Times are wasting and record.
Mafetove Gwepo is a farming community of 600 people in the Central Tongue constituency of the Volta region. Residents do not enjoy basic access to potable water. Running water would be a luxury they can only afford to dream and hope becomes a reality. Women and girls journey to the main source of water in the community, a pond. The pond is nestled in between trees. It is deep brown and dirty, with remnants of fallen leaves and other black substances floating on the surface. Feet wade in water. In a matter of seconds, receptacles are filled up. A herd of cattle make their way to drink the same source of water. The water settles in a white packet, and finally, its true color emerges. The water is used for washing, cooking, and drinking. Perfect Amade, a senior high school student, plans of abandoning her village in the future, mainly because of the poor quality of water. After getting used to potable water from secondary school, using the brownish liquid is difficult.
We are not having potable water, so that's what I don't like about the village. The water is not good for our health, and when we are using it, because of that, when we come back from school, we can't wear white clothes.
She won't be the first person to abandon the community. Many others have fled to urban areas for supposed better life.
This village consists of a population of about 1,500, but as I'm speaking now, we can only get about 500 to 600 people living in the community because of the nature of this thing. Most youth have fled the town to other places for greener pastures.
Perfect is conscious about the promise to ensure every community and village gets water 2 years of the MPP administration.
Our Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, please, you have seen the water we are taking here. As a normal human being, this water is not good for our health. So you need to do something about it for us.
They can give this water to even their dogs to drink because of the nature of the water. If they come, we feed them water, they don't drink it. They tell us it's okay. They will leave. Upon several efforts to have this pipe brought to this village, all these attempts proved futile.
Dola Nana Akufo-Addo, enye himle mi odu komenye bi, eshinwe, eshimele mi egbo. Ena bi mi la shifu kpen, suku, mala du ko ha mene mi viu hala du difayi. Ena bi ne de viu yivu kaka ko ova jedo. Wanye fu kpekpe ne mi, yano mi ojila mi ano fu kpen, we ka de viu va se. Eta toko didi mi azobe, mali amowo, ka mi aba ikposhi. Enye tetere jine mi. Tamila kuku demna dukura Nana Akufo-Addo benena le shinya nava jemi odukom madimila chogbema.
They are not the only community with a terrible water situation. In fact, the assemblyman for Mafi Avedo electoral area has identified about 14 communities lacking potable water. The second out of the 14 communities is Mafi Tove Chikope. Greenish, slimy algae bloom on the surface of the water. The impact of algae on drinking water is complex, as some form of algae have the ability to affect water quality for humans and animal consumption, producing toxins that can have unpleasant and even serious health effects. After laboring to fetch and carry water over long distances, residents find a leech in the water. Sadness is etched in their faces. They have had to endure leeches for so many years. rainy season will help them harvest some water. But when the dry season emerges, they'll go back to their default drinking water or walk some kilometers for this basic commodity.
As we are suffering from this particular water, like germs and others, we went there and bought water from Toveglim. That's a new pipe water. Sometimes we use the dirty one to wash our things because expenses for buying waters are very high.
Le miaƒe eshikuku le etao ma avutɔ nɔ etame ta ne ge le me ne menya la aɖo ke ne ɖo la eɖo le menyanyagɔ ele avaƒe me ke ne ame le kpe na alo ŋutɔ va kpe hã ke ne eƒoe plasi sesẽ la ele ato ʋu ya gake ne nye be mekɔ asi ƒoe etsɔ dɔnti esi etrɔ le dzi la ele age ko ele ato ɖokui abiale na wo xatsa gakpo ne nenye mi wɔnu mata mi le kuku ɖem ne bena akpele mi ŋuti nge.
During their campaigning, they promised the whole Ghana that each community will get access to a good drinking water. But in their office of 2 years now, in our area, we haven't experienced anything in that form. If really their campaigning messages are working, then they should come to our aid for us to get a potable water.
The water makes them sick. The in charge of Avedo Chips compound, Gladys Womeno, says apart from malaria and respiratory tract infections, diarrhea is the third most common disease recorded in her facility.
They pass blood too. Some mucus mixed with blood. And there's some water too with blood. But
what does that mean?
That means they have infection, like bacterial infection. When they come with mucus too, we give them metronidazole, ORS. So when they come with the diarrhea, we give them zinc tab and the ORS. Now we advise them on personal hygiene.
How can this be solved?
If we have potable water, that one can stop diarrhea.
The district chief executive of Central Tong, Thomas Moore, says government will soon provide them potable water.
They will be getting potable water very soon. Those areas, we did our survey and realized underground water will not be good. Central Tong is not like other districts or regions where you can drill a borehole and heat water. We have surface water, but don't have good underground water. It could either be salty or some mineral content. So we have, at the back of these assemblies, there's a big treatment plant there that was financed by an Austria facility. And then it was a 10-key project. So we extended water to Avedo, which is one of the biggest communities on that line. So within that enclave, there are about 15 communities that we'll be connecting water to. I can tell you for sure we have 3 now, because my visit to these 3 communities, I saw them using boreholes, and the rest are under construction.
So 7 under construction?
Yeah, 3 are in use. So by next year, those communities you are mentioning now, I don't know if your grandmother is from any of them, but they will also start getting potable water.
Yes, sir. Debbie, 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 Nasu, Debbie, Debbie, Peppa, Debbie, 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 Nasu, Debbie, Debbie, Peppa, Debbie.
The people are eagerly waiting for the day government will fulfill promises to give them potable water.
We heard that he will give every constituency $1 million for development works to be carried out in the constituencies. Up till now, we've not been hearing any thing about that $1 million.
And so that's the first of our citizen-driven series dubbed Dear Nanado. I have the technical advisor of the Coalition of NGOs in Water and Sanitation, CONIWAS, Patrick Apoya, in the studio with me. As we were watching it, I was looking at you and I saw your reaction. How did you feel watching that, especially seeing the leeches sticking to the sides of the bucket?
No, I will just describe this as very devastating. And for me, who I've seen situations, I've seen very bad situations, cattle sharing water with people, but I think this particular case is very touching. And the thing that touched me most is when the man said, people who come to them to help them, when they offer them the water, they say, no, it's okay. But they expect that that's the water they are drinking. For me, that was very touching. But viewers who probably have not seen what the rural setting looks like may think that this is just an isolated case that maybe Joy News spent energy trying to fish out and show. But I can assure people that this is a typical representation of the remaining 20% of rural people who do not have water in Ghana. Right. This may be... So
the problem is bigger than...
It's bigger than what we are seeing. Right. It's bigger than what we are seeing. Even in that area, even the chief executive mentioned over 6, 7, 8 communities who will be given water soon. Right. And they are in the same situation. I can tell you that the remaining 20% of rural communities who don't have water, this is the typical case that people can look at. For me, I think the situation would need more and better strategies by the government and the local assemblies to do something urgent.
I see. Now, we're told that in 2017, government allocated $255 million to the Sanitation and Water Resources Ministry. Yeah. In 2018, it came down to $183 million, and then went up in by $246 million in 2019. Yeah. Do you think that these figures indicate government's commitment to addressing issues like this?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, looking at the figures, I wouldn't say so at all. If you know what it takes to provide water, even the $246 million, if you put everything to even boreholes, which is the cheapest facility that you can provide, you wouldn't get more than 1,000 boreholes, or at most 2,000 boreholes. That's if you want to do it at a very cheap cost without mechanization. And that is just a drop in the ocean. But it will suffice you to know that more than half of that money is just for salaries. When they say 246 million, it is not for investments alone. Investments is just probably 20% of the total budget or 25% of the total budget. The salaries are in there, services are in there, and then, of course, investments are in there. And
so the larger chunk is just spent on emoluments mostly.
Yes, because if you look at what has been invested, it is not even up to a quarter of that amount.
I see.
In fact, to start with, not within what we target for investment, which is not up to a quarter, less than half of it will be leased in a given year.
Interesting. Now, you work within this space, the provision of safe water, and you work closely with the MMDAs. Yeah. What have you observed as far as the situation is concerned?
For me, they are tight-lipped, but they're very helpless. But they fear that maybe if they talk, they can get the wrath of government and they will lose their positions. I think government is its own enemy. On one hand, there's a very good intention to promote grassroots development through certain initiatives, such as the $1 million per constituency. But it is, and that is what the vice president touted, that using that one, they will be able to provide water for every community within 2 years. But honestly, it is that same policy which is actually working against water provision in the communities. And that we thought the 1 million was additional money coming to the constituencies. It turns out that no, it's actually not additional money. The common fund that was already there, they should assign a portion of it for as part of that 1 million. Special initiatives is implementing some things. They will say count it as part of initiatives. The development authorities that are also coming, anything they are doing, they will say count it as part of that 1 million. So formally, the assemblies that had up to, let's say, 40% of their common fund as discretionary that they could allocate. Because of that $1 million per constituency, that has now shrunk to less than 10% of what they receive that they can play with. So the DCE who is talking right now, formally, would have attended to this community very briskly. But now, he doesn't have that leeway because all the funds have been allocated for specific purposes under the so-called $1 million per constituency and other policy initiatives, leaving them very tight. And they are helpless as they sit. And even the money won't even come. Sometimes third quarter in the year before they get their first quarter transfers. So basically, they're just paying debts, you know. And I think government needs to, on one hand, they show seriousness and they show commitment. For instance, bringing out water from the Works and Housing Ministry, sanitation out of local government ministry to come to have a separate ministry for water and sanitation, which shows some seriousness at the highest level. But when it comes to action, allocating financial resources, it will look as if a finance minister is in direct fight with the president regarding seeing water and sanitation as a priority. Because to be honest, what is allocated is the sole discretion of the finance ministry. They decide how they want to play with figures. And if they say, whatever you request, this is what we can give you, it's final. And the allocation doesn't suggest a minister who supports his president's views as to what he considers a priority. Can you imagine moving from over 240 million to 183, and over 255 million to 183, then either an act of something to recover the public criticism, it is raised up to 246, but still even below the 2017 figure. So you would think it's an increase over 2017, but if you, the 2017 figure is still below that 2017 figure. So
I'm hearing you concerning your voice about, you know, lack of prioritization, if I may call it that. Since this is a letter to Nana Addo, the president, what are your final words?
My final words
to
be
Nana Addo.
For government for him to actually put certain targets, give certain targets to the relevant ministries that this is what I want to see in place by this period. I think that is where he's being failed. If you say it and you back it up with what finance ministry is supposed to give and take it as one of the special, take education for instance. You can't say free education is not a priority for for the ministry and the government. So you see that despite the difficulties, they are moving. So if the sanitation and the finance sectors were also in line with the president's vision, I think we would have seen better results. He needs to do something more drastic.
All right.
To get results.
He needs to do something more drastic. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Apoya. And Mr. Apoya is with Koniwas. He joined me in the studio for a discussion there on the back of our citizen-driven series dubbed Dear Nana Addo, and it will air every Wednesday on Prime at 7:20. You're still watching Joy News Prime with me, Araba Kunsi. Welcome back. Now, in today's edition of Porous Borders, we are back in the newly created OT region where lack of logistics and inadequate personnel are hampering border controls there. Apart from unmanned entry points and all the challenges, the few personnel there are living the reality of enduring unfavorable conditions and dilapidated structures. Here is Peter Seno's report read to you.
This road leads to the main border post at Menusu, one of Ghana's eastern borders to the Republic of Togo. The road is pothole-ridden, bumpy, and generally unmotorable. This road is not in a good shape for any emergency calls or evacuation. Beyond the bad state of the road, it also becomes very slippery anytime it rains because of huge clay deposits in the soil here. I'm currently at the crossroads between Togo and Ghana. A tarred part of the road belongs to Togo, whereas the remaining untarred part belongs to the Republic of Ghana. Unlike some unmanned entry points, I see immigration officials in charge here. They are here to protect the country from any external aggression. But what are their realities and how do they cope? I started at the Kerchi outpost in the Jasikan district, but under the Inkwanta sector command. Here, the solar panel to provide lights at night has broken down. The officers share this dilapidated structure. They struggle to make or receive phone calls every day unless they position themselves in this corner of a premises. Communication is severely impeded in this area. The officers will not go on record with how they respond in terms of emergencies and what they do when reinforcement is needed. I have come to the Obuasi outpost, still in the Kajebi district of the Oti region. The situation here is not so different. No lights, having to battle with flies which cause onchocerciasis, and sometimes attacks from the communities close by when they try to do their jobs and exercise some vigilance. My next destination was very hard to reach. It is the Ahamansu outpost. I have arrived after traveling 3 kilometers. Immigration officials here are also saddled with hard challenges as they travel over 3 kilometers to do something as basic as charging their mobile phones on a daily basis. Their solar panels have been faulty, and like their counterparts in Obuasi, extremely poor network leaves them with one sacred spot of reception on the premises. These are just the highlights of their daily concerns. There's more, but like all security agencies, disciplinary action could follow if they go on record with these concerns. So they choose to be silent. But with a series on porous borders, they sure are hopeful their superiors and government will act swiftly to avert any unfortunate situation. It takes secured men to secure others, after all.
Having seen what is really happening on the ground, are you satisfied with the condition under which your men live?
Yeah, I can tell you nobody is satisfied. I mean, whether you are in the security service or wherever it is, because of the circumstances under which the men work. But we really work with what we have, and they are doing their best. The officers and men over there wish to have improved conditions, of course, and some of these have already come to the notice of our authorities, and they have called for full reports on the borders and the structures and the entire condition, so that at least they will help us to be able to improve the conditions under which these officers and men work. We are doing our best, and therefore we hope that the conditions will be improved for us to give more input.
What is your take on current seeming security lapses with specific regard to these kidnappings in the country? What's your take on that? Do you think that security has broken down somewhat internally?
I have already mentioned that if you and I, we know what the information we can share, then of course we can move on to be able to do our work. Security has not broken down. There are men, officers and men, who are their various duties and they are working. Yes, all that we need is to make sure that we embark on a sensitization for the Ghanaian public to know the type of information they will have to pick and share with us, because the people who do the kidnapping and cause much problem in the system are staying with us. That is my take. They are staying with us. We have given them our property to rent. We have given them our accommodation. Yes, so let's do a little background checks on such people. Let's liaise with the appropriate authorities about these foreign nationals who are staying in accommodation, and so that for the authorities to do such background check or share the information with them, and we will all be safe. And that is why today Ghana Immigration Service embarks so much on sensitization program and at the same time enforcement.
Peter Addison Senus reports for Joy News from the OT region.
Now, former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo is advocating for a joint security arrangement to help tackle security threats in the West African sub-region. He says efforts by individual member countries to tackle threats of terrorism and other cross-border crimes will come to naught if joint measures are not adopted. He was speaking to head of our security desk, Gifty Andor-Pierre.
We are now talking of integration. If you are talking of integration, what do you mean by securing a border? And if you are secured and your neighbor is not secured, that's stupid security. What we should be talking about is common security, common prosperity, something that joins all together. You cannot say, okay, I will close my door, the door of my house, I will make it safe, and then the door of your neighbor's house is not safe. When something happens to your neighbor, it's like saying, well, I will make sure there's no fire in my house. But if there's fire in your neighbor's house, spark of the fire in your neighbor's house will come to yours.
So if I understand you clearly, you're saying that we should be able to join forces together if we need to solve terrorism.
It should be common security and shared prosperity.
Okay. Now, the Ghana Grand Tour arrived in Pandai earlier today, where His Excellency Ian Walker took a quick breather outside the Pandai Senior High School. The curious students and the assistant headmaster came out to meet the writers. Watch.
Give way.
Well done. Good.
What's the name of your school? What's it called? What's the name?
Cycling since 6:30. I was feeling quite tired, and I think I saw some of the guys in their uniforms, and I got a big smile. It was quite uplifting, so I stopped to say hello. So thank you so much for saying hello. It's lovely to kind of come into your neighbourhood and see you.
Okay.
It's a big school, eh?
Yes.
How many pupils do you have?
We have 1,150.
Well, and what's the name of the school?
Pandai Senior High.
Pandai Senior High, okay. And it's from all around the region. Do the pupils come?
Yes, they come from all over Ghana, not only
all over Ghana.
Yes.
Okay. And is it a boarding? So it's a boarding school then?
It's a boarding school. Okay. Although we have some few day students.
Okay. But I must say, your pupils all look incredibly smart.
We are happy that we are supposed to stop to see the word of or maybe to just say hi to us. We happen to be in the tribe area. You can see our school facilities are not well developed. Now that you have come to our area, after you have gone back, we will knock on your door and appeal for your assistance.
So that's the British High Commissioner Ian Walker interacting with students and the headmaster of the Pandai Senior High School. And as you can see, he's as fit as a fiddle. But lack of motivation and time constraints have often been cited by many as reason for their inability to work out. Now, at a time dietitians and health officials are calling for rigorous fitness routines to deal with the problem of poor lifestyles, the need for exercises has become more imperative. And guess what? There's a way of going beyond the barriers to keep fit, courtesy the 30-day weight loss challenge launched on the Cosmopolitan Mix on Joy 99.7 FM with Mama V. Osu-Abuaje. There's more in this report by Komladum.
My last visit to the dietitian made me uncomfortable. It didn't have much to do with my late-night eating habits or my irregular dieting schedules. But here's what. I weighed more than 70 kilograms. And right before Andrew Pebby, the dietitian, I made a decision in my mind to begin a fitness routine. I thought of my colleagues Maxwell Agbagba and Ernest Menu, and I felt somewhat good about myself. At least, my pot belly was not as profound as theirs. But so many things came up. Register with a gym, begin done jogging up the hill, you name it. This was sometime last year. Today, I am yet to lift a dumbbell, and I do not even remember ever using a treadmill. But there's an exciting escape. The weight loss challenge with Mama V on the Cosmopolitan Mix Show will help. In 30 days, we look to shed off quite a bit. With Mama V are motivated. All the no-holds-barred talk and talk about fitness encourages us. And days into the challenge, the improvement is significant. The subscribers believe by day 30, a size 6 or so would be rewarding. Mama V Owusu Abuaje talks about why this challenge is important.
This all started as a normal conversation on the Cosmopolitan Mix. We were just talking about our everyday challenges. How you gain weight and it's annoying. You see it in your waist, your thighs. You don't know what to do about it. People talk about exercising, but you need some kind of motivation to do it. So we thought, okay, why don't we just try and challenge ourselves and get this going? Our hope really is that at the end of the 30 days, we will see significant changes in our lives and we can all take this up as a lifestyle.
Now, you see why all of you have to join the challenge? On Saturday, challengers will meet at the Labadi Beach Hotel and work out as a group. Also a fine opportunity to meet and greet. I'll be there, and I'm definitely dragging my colleagues Ernest Menu and Maxwell Agbagba along. They really need to shed some weight. Operation Shed the Kilos is on. And let's hear results after 30.
There's more news on my Joy Online. Log on to that and you get more details, especially on the reactions to our Dear Nanado series. I'm Arba Kumsin. Have a good night.